Yeah,
Um,
okay. Let's start. We talked about this AI companion. It's second time that we
yeah,
try to start. I don't know. Maybe they're blocking like internet between Russia and
they
USA.
might. They,
Don't want
I know.
people
Well,
to connect on a horizontal level. You know, you need to connect only through like official channels. So you
I see.
like through you learn about Russians through CNN, and they
Hmm.
like tell about like how we live,
Oh yeah,
and I am
yeah,
through my like channel like I don't know, like Russia Today or something. We have local ones
yes,
like
yeah,
Russia it's called. Learn about
yeah,
what Americans up to.
yeah. It's very filtered. Um, and just a little bit on that, I've encountered and I've heard people talk about people who immigrate to the United States or who have immigrated, let's say from um, what used to be the Warsaw Pact countries, people who lived under um, the Soviet kind of control and regulation. They when they come to the U.S., they're amazed that the level of just acceptance that U.S. people have for the propaganda that is our press. They go,
But
don't you
it's
realize
private.
that?
It's private. It can be propaganda.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Um,
The
yeah,
saints, they're
yeah,
saints.
it's just amazing.
Murdoch,
Um,
Murdoch and company just want to be best for you.
yes, that's right. Yes, exactly. Yeah, get with the program. Yeah, don't ask, don't question. We know what's good for you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it just so happens it's even better for us, but we know what's good for you because
Yeah, it's like this
yeah, but
classic divide and rule, right? Thing.
yeah, yeah, divide and rule. It is um, that change from the common. Most people talk about divide and conquer,
Mm-hmm.
but my understanding is it was actually stated as divide and rule, and that changes the characteristics.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that really um, that can make one aware of just how, at least in this country, and other places where the creation of rivalry groups um, competing for status and competing for resources or as standard of living,
Mm-hmm.
um, that that will one of one of the risks if we go to AI a little bit as I see it is that will that will become even more effective of isolating people um, in their group, much like what Hoffer talks about in the True Believers. What what I found most interesting um, in what I've read so far of him in the True Believer and the examination of revolutions and um, movements that are incredibly cohesive and dogmatic and with strict enforcement of belief system that uh, that he's saying something I hadn't seen before. Not that I've looked into it very deeply, but
Mm-hmm.
he's saying that history and other observers have said that when if you have a purely feudal society or a very peasant-based society, if the oppression is really strong,
Mm-hmm.
then people are just struggling to survive and they can't unify or can't organize around an idea. But when that oppression lifts and people have more possibilities and they're living a better life, then they start to imagine even more benefits, and their frustration and their becomes even greater. And and that was an interesting thing that he was proposing, and he was quoting several other people who actually looked more deeply into it historically. But that idea of, I see that in what would be considered like progressive activists here in this country.
Yeah, yeah, they have a
That
good
that
life. They're not struggling. They're not this, like what he says, like really poor people that need that all
hmm
time goes to survival, right?
right,
And it's like hierarchy, like Graeber said about this. Like if you're like your identity, it's like you're kind of like slave, and you're like kind of low life, and there's like these higher people. It's like okay, it's like how it always been. But if you're thinking about yourself like a kind of equal to people in power, like
hmm
there's goes logic of like reciprocal, like why is there like better than I am, and you want like
yeah,
more, uh, because it's on like this epistemology that we are like equal, not
right. And
hierarchy.
the differences are there, but it's like, well, there shouldn't be these
Yeah.
differences because I'm, and that seems to happen when there's improvement in the condition of the people who'd formerly been really deprived.
Hmm.
When they start getting options, and the and add to that what I see happening, well, here since World War II, let's say with the civil rights movement, or um, with women's rights, and feminism. There's an there's something that happens to people who consider themselves activists. You know, their their identity is they're making change in the world. They're changing the world,
Hmm.
and there's this period of time when they're successful
Hmm.
and things change. But the difficulty is that identity of being a change maker, when if you largely achieve what you're striving for, then what do? You either have to change the identity of being a change maker into being a participant in the system that you've changed, which is really hard because now you're just part of the group. You don't have this you don't have this sense of self, of having that much agency that you're making changes. And so it becomes, have to find something else to work on changing to
Hmm.
maintain that sense of who you are. And so,
And least in different like a mass movement.
yeah, yeah. Because if suddenly you find yourself, if you've achieved the societal changes that you ask for, now it's like, well, you can't be this people who's provoking, who's living in a world of ideas, who's deriving all kinds of energy from pursuing a set of goals. So if the landscape changes the way you wanted, then it's like, oh, then I guess I have to go get a job and participate. It's kind of an equal in this changed landscape,
Hmm.
and that's not satisfying.
Yeah, and you as a person, it's like first like what I found when I first read this crazy thought. It's that this freedom, it's a burden. Like to
Yes.
be alone and to feel that you're not in this group, right? It's
Right.
really kind of
Yeah,
fearsome feeling, because that
it
you're
is.
like on your own, and you need to
Right.
go to be of something like bigger. We
Yeah.
need this, and if people, and he says like
Mhm. Yeah.
great things, that's basically like family, right? It's also some
Hmm.
kind of mass movement, and if people
Right.
have these connections like family, clans,
Yep.
then, or like religion, right? They
Hmm.
want to go, for example, to like some kind of a social movement, or like
Yep.
a nationalistic movement, or another
Hmm.
like religion movements, right? Because they're kind of protected, they're already filled, they're like belong to some like family and
Hmm.
so on. And what's
Right.
like Jesus, right, Christians first said, it's like this like blood relatives, it's not your brother, mother, like leave them alone, come with me, this is
Hmm.
your brothers, like
Right. Yeah.
brothers in idea, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
Comrades.
yeah, comrades, yeah. And it's like,
Yes.
in order to be successful, you need like to destroy this kind of, or like to, like, I don't know, rewrite like this,
Right.
epistemology, like these ideas, like in
Hmm.
Russia communist did, like okay, we are building this future, it's like will be great.
Yes. That's
And
right. Yeah. Yeah. These all, this idea of, and I think he gets into the the benefits of religion to a stable society,
mhm,
because what happens is, if you have a shared religious perspective, and there's a transcendent realm that you can't get into while you're living.
mhm,
It's held, you know, it's outside your normal activities. When religion is undermined and belief in that external transcendence is undermined, the humanist, the thing that has always fascinated me about what's called the humanist perspective, all that does is put human reason on the throne of the divine. It brings this sense of transcendence down to our human level, and that becomes a self-referential tautology that
mhm,
we can rationalize anything.
yeah,
And so these mass movements do have a sort of a messianic aspect, because there's some leaders, but they're offering the transcendent in the here and now, but future. They're substituting, because humans seem to be wired for some sort of fascination with transcendent ideas, or and so all of these mass movements and revolutionaries are fascinated with a transcendent aspect in the future. You might call it utopian, but um, but they're all building something that, you know they're dedicating themselves to some future payoff. And instead of it being the afterlife in a religious viewpoint, or the ancestor realm in a tribal viewpoint, where you live a certain way and you follow the rules that have been evolved within a culture, and there's a transcendent after that is your reward. Now we brought the reward down into the future and human centric, and everything gets sacrificed on the altar of that.
yeah. And it's like, even from what I read in Richard Dawkins' book Selfish Gene, he talks about this shadow of the future. That's when
Mm-hmm.
World War One happened, and like German and British soldiers, they didn't know when it like ends. So the
Mm-hmm.
shadow of the future, it was kind of confusion. Like it's like a puzzle. They don't know when. because if they were like to know when, they can, start to cheat, not cooperate, but to cheat. Like
Hmm.
when you know that you're here, like in the city for a short time, right? You can cheat people and then leave. It's like very
Yes.
short shadow future, and you know when. You don't
Right.
need point to cooperate, right? Uh,
Hmm.
and because when people in villages, they know that they will be live here, like for example, I don't know, for several
Yeah.
generations. They're like
Yeah.
um, their children and so on, and religion gives it, because it's
Hmm.
like it's not only like we live here on earth, but there will be like hell and
Hmm.
heaven, and
Yeah.
you can't cheat, right? Because it will be like develop
Yeah.
like this feedback loop um,
Yeah.
comes to you.
Yeah. 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 There'll be consequences to the choices you make in the here and now,
Hmm.
in the long term.
Yeah.
There'll be, yeah. And most, even tribal groups, my sense is that the conservative aspect of traditional cultures, they're very risk averse.
Hmm.
When, you know, when you live close to the biological systems that sustain your life, um, there's a situation where you actually have a pretty good idea of the potential consequences. I'm gonna,
Yeah.
morning sun is coming through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that the feedback loops are very close at hand.
Hmm.
You can, people with a living memory and some memory of previous generations that's been passed on can kind of detect if things are going the wrong way
It's like a
and,
mass movement, but
and make
it's
corrections.
yeah,
Make corrections.
it's already established, right?
Yeah.
It's on this phase. It's not when it starts, and it's like, okay, you see this like soon change coming, right? In
Hmm.
like Russian Revolution or French Revolution, huge like benefits to you and so on,
Right.
and it's like run
Yeah.
away, and you're like, okay, destroying and this new system, and then like he quoted Hitler, Mein Kampf, about bureaucrats coming. If bureaucrats coming, it's like okay, it's exhausted, this like revolution, nationalistic mass
Hmm.
movement, exhausted themselves, or how I say.
Yeah.
Quite
Well,
quite interesting book.
the,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. One of the things that really jumped out at me again was being a product of the times of early modernity. Now, there were two things. His his framing things at the general angst of being an individual and having freedom. Um, is, I would say he was rather influenced in his younger days by the existential perspective in philosophy.
Yeah.
He seems to have been influenced by that idea that there's no objective meaning,
Hmm.
and the human is, in the modern world anyway, is burdened with the task of creating some personal meaning system, and that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so that idea, and it's hard to come up with something that's really meaningful on a personal level. And it's much easier to subscribe, as our ancestors did, to the given spiritual cosmological meaning system that unified a community that was shared. And so, on the one hand, if his biography, if how he lived his life is true, then there's some questions about the story he's told about his life. Other than he was a longshoreman for a long time. He worked the
Yeah,
docks.
yeah.
Yeah. But his earlier life of moving around and where he was born, Wikipedia anyway says that there's some question about his life story and
And he's
maybe
like,
even where he was born or any of that.
hmm,
Yeah, his nomadic existence before he settled into being, working as a longshoreman. The but the thing is that he's he and I would say you and I and a certain portion of the population are comfortable, or at least have a relationship with this kind of existential condition.
hmm,
And we have the luxury of having the time and food and water and shelter to give a lot of our attention to wondering about these things, like you and I are doing right now.
yeah, and to be unsatisfied.
To be
Yeah,
unsatisfied, yeah,
we don't need
and
to work
yeah,
like 24 hours, 20 hours
right,
per day
right,
for
right. And we
bread.
don't have 6 children that need
Yeah.
to be fed, and and that sort of thing. And so our reward system and everything is much more expansive. Um, the but so that's one of his premises, is that revolutions and mass movements today substitute for the comfort that people had living in a very organized mental framework and physical manifestation of that mental framework.
It's like pack,
That
or
they're
like some kind of what flock, like in animal kingdom,
Mhm.
uh,
Right. Yeah, having a coherent herd.
herd. Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
like MAGA,
because we're very
MAGA,
social animals.
yeah,
Yeah.
MAGA movement, and a lot of like in Russia, that and Ukraine, all this like
Hmm.
revolutions movement, LGBT, and so on.
Yeah.
Like it's all like a mass movements. Uh,
Yeah.
People
And people,
subscribed. Mhm.
yeah, and people are guided and drawn into different flavors of these philosophies or ideologies that really serve to keep the bulk of us fighting with each other.
Yeah, and some like I think it's engineered. You remember like this guy we watched podcast, socialist professor Vivek. He says about
Yeah.
this
Oh,
identity politics. Basically, it's
oh yeah.
crafted like by Wall
Yeah.
Street, because okay, like socialism now, it's not about like distributing wealth, like progressive like tax, but about like your identity.
Yeah, because it's become an identity because the working class has been demonized.
Yeah.
You know, labor the labor movement in the United States has been dismantled to a large part, um, and it's been very effectively done. And what's even more interesting is that many of these identity orientations hold the working class in contempt.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what's curious there is something that I think I observe is having I've done a lot of working class work over my lifetime
Blue
in
collar.
order to make blue collar, in order to make a living, to have a family,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to support things that I was doing. Um, and so I'm very familiar with the way people in those areas of maintaining society view the world, in general ways. they're preoccupied with, like we say, making a living, putting food on the table, taking care of their children, trying to have some sort of, meaningful life, uh, and struggling. Lots of demands on their time and their attention and their energy that they're not, uh, that they can't opt out of. And but the thing is that the people in a lot of these philosophically oriented or ideological groups
Mhm.
don't do anything. They don't make anything physical. They don't do any transformation of the material world in order to provide food, shelter, the machines that we depend upon, the energy that we depend upon. They're not they're not interfacing with the physical world to keep society functioning. And so they end up in the illusion of their imaginations about how they want to change the world. And I think there's an unconscious annoyance with the fact that they don't understand the systems that keep them alive and feed them and shelter them and provide them water when they turn on the tap and electricity when they throw the switch. And they feel a sense of deficiency of knowledge. They don't understand what's going on. They're living in a world of ideas, wanting to impose, these lofty ideas, and being dependent upon somebody who you consider your inferior is like a double bind. It's
Mhm.
like I depend upon this class, this strata of society who I think are stupid because they don't think like me,
Mhm.
and that's hard to resolve. And so the way they resolve it is they just hold them in contempt and think they're stupid and ignorant and there's something wrong with them, and they can stay in their little bubble of superiority. But when storms come along and when infrastructure is disrupted, um, suddenly they don't know how to use a chainsaw and get trees out of the way of the road that's blocking their movement. They don't know how to repair things. And my sense of the future in the complex world is that there's going to be some issues around the maintenance of our way of life. And there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be confronted with the worthlessness of their ideology when it comes to actual basic survival.
Yeah, it might because like a lot of this like economy about like gaming, all this prediction markets, like and about I don't know OnlyFans, something like all this stuff,
Yeah.
like virtual reality services. Yeah, and
Hmm.
basically like not a lot of engineers, like compared,
Right.
for example, to China. It's like
Yeah.
crazy how many engineers there. Maybe it's like, yeah, they're planning all this automation. You just take a picture by some like chatbot, and it tells you like what to do, how to change like something, or like you order a robot, like some kind of Tesla bot or something, and you
Hmm.
don't need these humans, right?
Well, humans are messier than the ideal of automation, and
Yeah,
you know,
because they
yeah,
have like this kind of envy and
they
so
don't get
these
right.
emotions. They hard
Yeah.
to program. It's possible to program, but then it's like they heard something different. It's like kind of it's a life system. And what like Sam Altman
Yeah,
talks, it's like waste a lot of energy like to grow a human being worker
yeah, yes,
compared
it
to
does.
compared to
Yeah,
like AI, some bot, easy to
yeah.
train, and
Yeah.
you just need
What's the carbon
data,
footprint of a baby?
yeah, data center. And like we use this language, like we always about this efficiency, optimization, like all the point, like for some kind of like uh, machine life, right? It's not about
Yeah.
life living, it's like some kind of simulacrum of life. Not
Hmm.
enjoying, play music or something, just a talk with human beings.
Right.
You need, okay, go fast, fast, build more stuff. uh,
Hmm.
it's like
Yeah.
only tiny fraction of what's human life is.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
And
Yeah.
he thinks it's like everything, like about all this, but symbolic life, right? With like you have
Hmm.
relations with some kind of ideas. Maybe for some it's like honor. I don't know. For some warrior, for some it's like God, like
Hmm.
love and so on. It's like also
Yeah.
fills you up. It's like like you're, and it's not like this shallow. When you're, for example, consuming like some kind of I don't know TikTok or like even shopping, kind
Hmm.
of it's like empty life.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, it's interesting how he sees it. He's like kind of a nomad, this Eric Hoffer, about freedom. That's like people he wrote that see their lives as spoiled and wasted, crave like equality and fraternity,
Yeah.
that they then they do freedom.
Yeah.
They want like
Yeah.
to destroy freedom, so everybody will be equal,
Hmm.
uniformity. And there's like great metaphor. He says to be one thread of the many which make up a tunic, one trait non-distinguishable from the others. No one
Hmm.
can then point us out, measure us against others, and explore our inferiority.
And but they call that, but then they call it um, a kind of freedom or a liberation from something.
Yeah, from your like how say, there's like persona, and in Russian it's called личность. What's the one second, in personality.
Yeah.
Like your
Yeah.
personality unique, you
Sure.
know.
Well, did you watch that George Carlin clip I sent you?
uh, I watched about like gold, but not fully, but George Carlin long time ago. When
No, no, no. Just I think it was the most recent one that I sent. Let me see
post-Trump
here.
America, reform of collapse, Michael Avery and
Wait a minute.
elites
No,
blame.
maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't send that
Yeah,
one
you
to you.
didn't. No.
I didn't. I'm sorry.
So
I
what's it
left my.
about?
Well, um, it's a it's basically a brief summary of everything we're talking about,
Hmm.
the ideological capture,
Mhm.
and and the fact that the ideological capture, when you become an embedded part of an ideology, then it frees you. It gives you, it liberates you from having to form a personality, from develop a personality,
Mhm.
because you're just repeating the same things. Everybody hates the same people. They use the same terms. They clap at the same time. They laugh at the same time. They get
Yeah.
angry at the same time. And so you're freed from having to develop a personality.
Yeah, and it's too tiresome and really
Yeah.
like a lot of
Yeah.
fear on the way and so on. Uh,
Oh yeah. Well,
Actually,
there was a piece of a poem. Um, because I don't know why I haven't been able to read Dostoevsky, but I read all of Solzhenitsyn by the time I was 21,
Hmm. Hmm.
and and at least all of his novels. And then later, not long after that, I came across. Um, I think after he had left the Soviet Union, I think
Hmm.
he'd been kind of. I think it was a mutual accommodation. I think the Soviet Union was happy for him to leave, and so he was over here, and he was over in the West. But I think he wrote some poetry, and there was one section that was a very short poem. Something I think it was something about his. It might have been some of his experience, but understanding the experience of other um, people who were freed from an oppressive system, and it was it was talking about a like a parakeet or a wild bird that's been raised in a cage. If it's released from the cage, in some way it longs for the security of the cage again.
Yeah. Yeah,
And so,
that's how it is.
yeah. So what we're describing is as people gain more freedom from an oppressive system that Hoffer's suggesting. When they get more freedom, then they become very uncomfortable, and there's a tendency to subscribe to another form of oppression.
Yeah, and it's like another point which interesting comes to my mind. It's like if you don't want like a mass movement, some kind of revolutionary movement, you need like to balance it, like dampen it, like with some kind of, for example, now it's like some kind of substances like weed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alcohol, like porn,
Yeah,
TikTok, and
yeah,
so on, and games, and it's channeled to this, and there no
right.
dissatisfaction that's needed to
Yeah,
this mass movement.
yeah, yeah. That's something that I thought a lot about, or a bit about over here, because marijuana use is becoming legalized in more and more parts of the United States, and it's a great way to sedate or pacify people.
Hmm.
You know, they tell themselves that it's opening them up and it's freeing their minds, and they feel so good. Um, but but it also, um, for most people, tends to reduce their initiative and to just have them kind of, yeah, just feeling good about
Yeah,
nothing in particular.
yeah. It's like illusion. This.
Yeah,
It feels.
but telling themselves is a kind of they've gained something.
Yeah.
And there are some people here who are regular. I mean, they smoke because it's legal here, which is odd for a conservative state. Um, and But just like gambling has become a big distraction and a big form of mass medication as casinos have spread, um, and so, yeah,
And it's
it's
like completely unregulated. It's crazy because like back to this, it's like in open, like this USA. It's like a beacon of light, of democracy, of like trustworthy, transparent. And now like
Mhm.
before like I don't know, 30 minutes before like Operation Epic Epstein, or like how it call Epic Fury,
Yeah.
they
Epic Epstein, yeah.
they like
Yeah,
betted on this, some kind of insiders, and they like have like millions of dollars in, I don't know, like, or it's like in Israel administration, or in USA. It's like all this like Trump coin,
Oh,
scamming
yeah, there's,
before
yeah, yeah.
presidency. It's like really crazy. It's no dignity. It's like
It's,
completely scamming population just directly. His
yeah,
mega group
yeah.
Trump coin. His followers bought it and they dumped it. It's like
Yeah, but it happens at a lower level of our government as well. I mean, there are people who get elected to Congress, and they have to their taxes have to be public record,
mhm.
their incomes and their tax stuff for the most part. Although Trump managed to prevent, he didn't comply with that when he was president, and I don't think he's done it even yet.
It's fake
And
news.
sharing,
He
yeah,
will.
he keeps his tax
Fake
returns
news.
secret. But members of Congress will be in Congress for a couple of years, and their net value, their net worth goes from, like, you know some hundreds of thousands of dollars,
Hmm.
maybe $1 million, which isn't that much these days,
Hmm.
and to like 30 or $40 million in their net worth in a couple of years. And how does that happen when your annual income to be a member of the House of Representatives is like, you're paid $170,000 per year to
Welcome
be
to
a
Russia. It's like in Russia. Same.
yeah, it's just like it's just like, yeah,
Crony
yeah,
capitalism.
yeah, because actually, there's a new, you talk about the trading, betting on the future and that kind of thing that's happening, betting on,
Yeah,
um,
prediction markets like poly market,
prediction markets. Yeah,
Kaishi, and so
there's
on.
a there's a new one over here that actually tracks the stock trades of congressional members because they're public, and so it posts in almost near real time what congressional members are doing with their money
Oh
in
yeah, yeah. I
investments,
saw
so
Nancy
so that
with
you can be like an
yeah, yeah.
insider.
Copy.
Also, you can
Yeah.
be like an insider trader,
But still,
on inside information.
there's some delay. I watched it
A
with
little bit, yeah, yeah.
Nancy
There's some delay.
Nancy
Yeah.
Pelosi, her like husband, and from what I hear now, it's like
Oh
on
yeah.
like
Other
this
family
channel
members will. Yeah.
Bilderberg,
Yeah.
or what's this called, club Bilderberg, some kind of club of like elites.
Oh, the
Build
Bilderbergs in Europe.
build
Yes.
no, in
Bilderbergs.
like
Yes.
I think in the United States, like they where they like
Oh.
sacrifice all to all, you know.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, yeah, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And what was really funny? I noticed. I was aware of it in 2000.
Hmm.
The election for president of Bush the Lesser, and George Kerry.
Hmm.
George Kerry was the Democratic nominee for president. He was a Vietnam combat veteran, um, and George Bush II was a he'd been part of the Air National Guard. He'd done some time in the military, but he was nowhere near combat or anything around the same time. But it turns out what was really funny is they were fraternity brothers.
Hmm.
They were both members. They both graduated from Yale University, and they were both members of the most secret fraternity in the United States, the Skull and Bones fraternity of Yale.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you look into the idea of the Skull
Hmm.
and Bones, um, they have lots of occult-like rituals that have been talked about a little bit. But it is like a fraternity of the elites, even, and they were both members, and I think they might have been in school around the same time
It's
and knew each
interesting
other.
how it's like affects basically these ideals or some kind of like mystique
Yeah,
decisions and
yeah.
like with situation now with war, right, with Iran,
Hmm.
and like
Hmm.
kind of what's like this kind of they have a celebration in Israel regarding like it goes way back like before Christ, like when it's like Mesopotamia, Babylon, and so on, like Jews in there, and there's like a king of Persia murdered some. So it's like, you know,
Yes. Oh, yeah.
it's like maybe it's it's like using this in order to like pacify masses, so they believe in them and they go like I don't know kill, and you in meantime like make money or like I don't know military industrial complex and so on, and in banking, right, and acquiring
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
this big tech firms like TikTok and so on, like
Yeah,
Oracle owner, and
yeah. Oh,
yeah, it's interesting how it will develop, but from the uh, look at it, it's kind of going not that great for United States. And it's it's usual some like people, ordinary people, are going like across the globe, right, in this mass movement, which is
hmm.
army, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
somebody make like a joke there's like some Russian channel naming them like a coalition of Epstein coalition.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah, yeah,
smearing, but it's funny.
yeah, yeah. And one of the things is that there's so many stories about, there's humans. Well, there was things, the patterning species. There was a book, I think, but humans seem to have a capacity that most other sentient beings lack, or at least in the degree we have it, of pattern recognition. And the pattern is always derived from not enough information. We don't have absolute knowledge of anything, but we have, but we do our best to make some sense out of the universe, right? And so, like, there's this information, there's this data point, this data point, and that one, and in order to go about our lives, um, because we have so much choice, it seems, compared to other animals in how we behave and how we do things together. Um, we have to we have to make sense out of what we're doing, what we're living, and what we're sensing, and what we're seeing and hearing, and so what's intriguing to me and frustrating, to go back to Hoffer's idea of frustration,
Mhm.
is that all these people are talking about how they are connecting the dots to make some sense, some story about of events, but they're connecting, this data point and that data point and this relationship and all that,
Yeah,
and and people are drawing all kinds of different conclusions,
yeah,
and but they're putting it's like being in a bar, where everybody has a couple of drinks. Everybody has to have a clear opinion on whatever the subject is. They have to assert it strongly. It's like, yeah, this is, yeah, that soccer player or that football player, it's for these reasons is terrible, or that one's great. Humans really have a tendency to want to think they know what the hell's going on,
yeah. It's like
and
you know
and to
it's
and to share
mhm.
their sense of it.
it's like deduction. Basically, you have some kind of schema and
Yeah,
lens. You see all like this empirical, like what's happening,
yeah,
phenomena like through this lens.
right,
And but this lens, this like abduction, like how I say schema, it was built by some people, maybe by you, by your, so by some empirical data, and you, okay, this
yeah,
is like
right.
the
But a lot of it's our
schema.
conditioning,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
it's, yeah, from
yeah,
conditioning, and we like
yeah,
see through this reality.
right.
We only like like Korzybski said, yeah, abstraction. We abstract only like this phenomenon. So basically,
Yeah,
by our like schemas mind, we build a world. What we want to see,
yeah,
we see. So it's like this
yeah,
self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And
yeah.
what's okay, Iran, or attack, or Russia, or like USA, Ukraine, and it's happening.
Yes. Yeah,
So
yeah,
all this you know about nuclear and World War III and Taiwan, China, it's like crazy, because I don't know. It's like kind of, a train without brakes,
yeah,
going
yes.
going in some
Well, that,
direction.
yeah, yeah, I mean, a great many people use that, you know, a tray without brakes, and the fact that somewhere down there the trestle is broken, and so the train's going to go off the bridge, and and the uh, and that seems to be how complex civilizations go. Um, and we can go, go back to um,
Actually, as you really like better for me understand this, like about climate and so on, I heard
mhm,
recently there's like some kind of projections, even like this year, like 1 degree or something. It's like this winter, this like past months in February, some new data, and it's like looking now more like doom and gloom than
yeah,
before. It's like kind of
yeah,
like some kind of runaway loop starting
yes,
to some
yes, yeah,
crazy
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. There are various feedbacks. One of the big feedbacks, and this is related to what we're talking about, was there's a general sense among some people that the pollution from burning oil is creates particles, very
Mm-hmm.
small particles that damage human lungs.
Mm-hmm.
There's something called like a 2.5 micron particle that comes out of particularly diesel or heavier fuels, and so places like New Delhi, which are saturated with smoking little motorbikes and trucks, and you um, that the air quality is really bad, and that kills a lot of people over each year. Well, they took that idea of cleaning up the air so humans' lives are better, and they came to an international agreement quite a few years ago of making low sulfur fuels for ocean going ships. You used to see a freighter when they would get out of port, they'd switch to a dirty bunker fuel,
Mm-hmm.
and there was this big plume of smoke coming out of the,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
freighters
yeah. I saw it. Yeah.
all over the planet. All these ships going all over the place, belching out these clouds of exhaust of contamination. Well, so they came up with an agreement, international agreement, to clean up those fuels. Now it's raised the price of shipping because it's more costly. They had to convert, they had to make engineering changes and conversions to the ships to burn the cleaner fuel and all that. But what happens though is over the oceans, it's reduced the air pollution. Now, the reason that is turning out to be a problem is because atmospheric sulfur compounds in the atmosphere, they reflect sunlight.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So now the skies over the oceans are clear. There's less clouds formation
Mm-hmm.
because those particulates would be the molecule that water vapor would condense on and become droplets and form clouds,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
also reflected sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
So now over all the oceans, there's more solar radiation hitting the oceans, warming them up more. And of course, the oceans are reaching a saturation point where it's hard for them to hold the heat that they've been collecting for so long. Water holds heat better than air. You can, water will absorb and hold heat much better than air
Mm-hmm.
because it's a denser medium.
Mm-hmm.
And so now what's happening is the oceans are warming so rapidly that they're releasing more heat
Mm-hmm.
because they just can't hold it as well. And so this effort to clean up the air for human health has had sort of an opposite effect on the overall temperature of the planet because there's this thing called the solar energy imbalance that satellites reading. They know how much radiation energy, solar, shortwave radiation hits the planet, different places around the world, and they have a sense of the total solar gain that the planet gets. And they also, on the other side, they can, when shortwave radiation hits a surface, it raises the energy of those molecules in that surface, and it's absorbed. The molecules become more warmer. I mean, you can tell, you're standing in the shade, you feel like one temperature, you step into the sun, and suddenly you feel warmer,
Yeah.
even though the air is the same. So that's what's happened to the water. And so the thing is that now when that shortwave radiation strikes a surface, it changes. A lot of it is absorbed and it warms the material that it's striking. But now that material radiates long wave, like infrared. It goes from ultraviolet coming in to infrared radiating out. And the infrared is what's trapped by water vapor, CO2, methane.
Mm.
It prevents it from radiating effectively out. And so what's happening is since we've cleaned up the ocean air, there's a net gain in solar radiation reaching the surface of the planet and being absorbed. And then it tries to radiate as long wave radiation, which is then trapped because there seems to be some pretty good evidence that for every 1 degree C of overall planetary warming, there's 7% more water vapor in the atmosphere because of evaporation from the oceans. Because the oceans warm up, there's more evaporation, and
Mm-hmm.
so water vapor traps heat.
Yeah, it's kind of.
It doesn't, and then you get more intense rainfall because there's more water vapor in the atmosphere to condense out when it does condense. So we're getting these more big flooding events more frequently.
More snow. It's crazy in Russia.
More
It's like this
more snow,
winter, a lot of
right?
snow.
Right. And so if we accept the idea that the overall planetary system is warmed by 1.5 degrees C, since like 1900, which is, it ignores a lot of warming prior to that, then 7% for each one. So we're actually at about 12%, 11% more water vapor in the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
That translates as energy. It makes it a little harder. Storm fronts are more violent. There's more energy in the atmospherics. And when rain does or snow, when precipitation happens, there's more to fall out in more intense, localized. Like I mean,
It's like
you
more
guys,
rare.
Northern Russia got hammered. New
Yeah,
York got hammered.
yeah.
You know,
And it's
uh,
very cold. It's like I heard that like amplitudes, the amplitude, it's like getting higher, like more
Yes,
like
right. The variability is going up. Yes,
yeah.
yeah. And
So
and it would be nice if we had two jet streams, but we only have about one and a half jet streams now. Um, so this is stuff that so all of these things will probably lead to
and it's, I think,
um,
like for example, like administration Trump would say, okay, this fake news, no,
yeah,
like it's like, but I think they really like perfectly understand what's happening. It's just like to keep
yes,
masses like docile, or how say, like happy, everything fine.
yeah,
And maybe this like policy change, or like regime change in Venezuela, in Iran, like trying to deal with Russia, like with oil. It's some kind of trying to, like uh, to get ahead, right, of this, like,
yeah. There's an increasing. There seems to be um,
because the
my
South will be hammered, I think, like
yeah. Well,
UAE, Thailand, and so on,
yeah.
Miami.
Resources, food production is going to decline. It already is in some places. It depends upon the area, but the variability is greater, so there's going to be more um, poor poor harvests in some areas that the world relies upon, and with greater with greater frequencies. Um, the My sense is that most of the governments of the world know that this is happening and have known, and so there have been several efforts by the people who want to maintain their privilege is that the use of technology for surveillance has gone way up.
Hmm.
The more militarizing of the police has gone up. The police have much more, in this country anyway, for the past 20 years, surplus military equipment has been given to the police departments, armored cars, um, much
Because you
better
because
weapons.
you have armed population in different
Well, we have an armed population, but the um, the yeah, and that would make a difference
I mean, in
because
Russia
the
it's
idea,
enough just like with AAK 47.
yeah,
You don't
right,
need like some
yeah,
kind of
yeah, no, I mean, an AK-47 is a very effective, very forgiving
yeah,
weapon. It doesn't jam. You can drop it in the mud. You
yeah,
can pick it up. It's still
yeah.
going to work. You know,
Yeah, so our
and
police, it's enough for them.
yeah, it's enough.
And
But
cameras,
but the
yeah,
thing is,
everywhere, same.
but most of the power centers, it's my kind of considered view is that they're all preparing for civil unrest when um, when the climate impacts really start to happen, and when there's reduced food production, when the cost of things really go up, when now I mean still Russia's a lot like the United States was 100 years ago, incredibly resource rich, but and and part of things is the United States and Europe and stuff have really coveted Russia's material resource wealth, you know, and really would like to get a hold of that. But um, but the thing is, my sense is that there are certain power structures, China, the United States, Russia, Europe, sort of,
I think
that are
even, Mike, I think it's, yeah,
well, let me just finish that
yeah, yeah.
that they have been positioning their societal controls and their ability to control their populations, anticipating problems, climate-based problems, and they're also trying to be the last empire that survives climate collapse.
Hmm.
There's this geopolitical competition for survival.
But it looks like there's some kind of structures higher than government. I don't know. It's like
Mm-hmm.
groups, corporations, bankers, I think. And you
Yeah.
see like a lot of people in Trump administration. It's how it's even like it's not even funny, like how it's like connected
I know.
to
Yeah.
Israel, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
make
It's
Israel
a book. Yeah.
first. It's like kind of it's like it's not even.
It, well, there's not just one thing going on. There's all sorts of it. Even within some sort of
At,
you
at
know,
yeah, it's at
it's sort of overarching. There's still competition between groups
yeah
and
groups.
visions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's
Even at that level. So it's a multi-layered strategy game,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
you add in the persistence of religion, and so you have a lot of people in the United States who are what we would call fundamentalist Christians and are really attached to the end times.
Mm-hmm.
That there's going to be this battle between good and evil, you know, Armageddon, and there are people in politics in the United States who hold those views that Christ is going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing everything they can to bring about the circumstances for the end times to occur. And one of the key things that's required is that the mosque, the temple has to be rebuilt in Jerusalem.
Mm.
So the mosque that's on the site of the temple has to be torn down, and that's an important Islamic site because that's supposedly where Muhammad, on his horse, ascended bodily. They both ascended bodily into heaven,
Mm.
and so the mosque, the temple of the dome on that has to be destroyed so that the Jewish temple can be rebuilt,
Hmm.
and that's one of the critical signs for a lot of Christians in the United States that the last battle between good and evil is going to take place, and then Jesus will return and set everything right.
It's last day. What's the name of this Christians? Last day, I think it's
Well,
LSG or
well they
something.
call they call they call them end timers.
End timers or like
End timers. The end times of the way things are, and it's a fascinating. And George Bush was in that category to a certain extent, um, and and so there's this symbiosis between what are called Christian Zionists in the United States, um, who want to provoke this war that revolves around Jerusalem so that they can defeat Islam. They can tear down the mosque
Mhm.
and rebuild the temple. And it's it, again it's one of these dogmatic, deeply held belief systems, and I don't know how it dovetails into. I don't know how it aligns or how it competes with other very very high level sets of goals and agendas.
And it's even in EU, right? They're like some
Mhm.
countries like Spain, I think, maybe Italy. There may Spain. I heard they like don't want like U.S. fighter jets like to bomb Iran from their bases, but
Mhm.
most other countries they are kind of aligned. And
Yeah.
even like Russia, it's not kind of because you see now like the difference in war with like Iran. against USA and allies, and how Russia like very restricted, like bomb only like Ukraine, not bomb like Romania, Poland, but they can. Zelensky still like on this, he in his office and everybody, but they can be like decapitated like this strike. So they like kind of too want to be in this big beautiful family, like this lost son. From
Yeah,
what I understand of mentality of these people in power,
yeah,
still sees themselves. We need in NATO and so on, like Putin said before. Uh, and really, truly, like, and even then, maybe Chinese only like sovereign, like they on their own, they have on their own banking system, like
hmm,
all that, because Russia still kind of follows. There's like crazy um, rate, credit rate, like I don't know, 60 or 70%, and but now military operation, it's kind of like shooting in their own leg of all this
hmm,
economic sector of Russia. It's like
hmm.
it's like foreign government. It's like with a Federal Reserve, like in cahoots, like it's kind of their
Hmm.
uh, against their like business people, manufacturing. They're kind of trying to slow it
Yeah,
compared to
yeah,
China, which invests in like production capacity, right? Uh,
yeah. Well,
and Iran, it's too. It's kind of sovereign, and North Korea. Other countries, they're kind of, I don't know, under this banking Federal Reserve, whoever, like Epstein coalition, kind of it's looks like strange. Maybe
yeah,
Russian more like sovereign compared to Europe, but still, if we were look on banking sector.
yeah. Well, I mean, what happened recently? You've, I don't know if you've heard of the International Bank of Reconciliation, I think, in Basel, Switzerland.
Oh, it's like yeah, it's kind of central banks
It,
of whole world.
it's sort of a central clearinghouse
Yeah, yeah.
of activities,
Hmm.
and they recently they recently changed the status of gold, and now gold is now considered money again.
Mm-hmm.
It, gold has now become a what's called a tier one asset,
Mm.
and gold has gone up dramatically in the past over the past years.
Yeah, so
Again, against all the floating currencies,
mm.
because back in the day, in 1971, Richard Nixon took the United States off the gold standard. The money used to be um, gold use back in 1971. Gold had been years before had been set at kind of a fixed rate of like $35 an ounce.
Yeah, and even before, I think like
Oh
internal,
yeah,
they like
yeah,
I forget what's the name of this president in like 20s or something.
hmm,
Uh,
yeah. And Nixon
defaulted.
took us off the
Yeah.
yeah, 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 and but the gold standard was in place, and in 1971, um, partly that was around the oil issues where OPEC formed,
Hmm.
and OPEC, the set of countries that were the primary oil producers outside of the United States um, started, you know, co- became a cartel. They were
Basically,
regulating.
now
Yeah,
behind dollar, it's like oil, and it's more
yeah.
powerful than
Well,
gold.
that's what happened in 70. That's what happened in 71. The dollar then
Yeah,
became the only thing that you could buy exchange oil in.
yeah, yeah.
and that
Until this
that
day, it's like
and
like all these
well, yeah,
countries
but they're moving away from that. Saudi,
they
countries will
wanted,
now sell
but still
not
they like trade in dollar. I think they wanted to
yeah,
move.
it's they well they actually China is buying in yuan from places. Yeah, they're drifting away. It's a confused time. So now gold is now currently at about $5,200 an ounce.
Yeah, and like from what I read from this book, Graeber, right? Debt history. Is this like
Hmm.
these cycles,
Yeah,
and still
yeah,
gold? It's like again, it's like money till when people like believe in it. So if we believe in gold, okay, that somebody
right.
will take it and give me, I don't know, massage or like some kind of buckwheat or like
Yeah,
something
right.
else,
Yeah,
okay, this is great, but
yeah,
otherwise so but basically
yeah.
money it's credit, like what people
You can't.
agree.
Yeah, because you can't eat gold.
Yeah, I can't eat
Gold,
gold.
gold. I mean, and paper money isn't very nutritious. I mean, you
Yeah,
can eat that easier, but
yeah,
I don't think it provides much value.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so now it's
so
interesting because all these Gulf states,
yeah.
Bahrain and so on, they're getting hammered, like their ally, their like big brother say, this crazy dynamic, it's like happening everywhere, and Graeber says about it, we're thinking that okay, we paying taxes because it government will protect us, or like
Hmm.
our big brother ally will protect us if we pay for
Hmm.
NATO or something, some kind of, I don't know, Russian
Yeah.
alliance, or that we pay like for to Russian government taxes and they will protect us, but
Hmm.
they protect us from themselves. So basically, if I won't pay taxes, or like citizens in Belgorod, which getting hammered by Ukrainians,
Hmm.
there are no protections, no protection. So,
Hmm.
but if they were not to pay taxes, Russian government comes to them, like all this some troubles, and same
Yeah.
dynamic in every country. So the
Yeah.
gangster comes to you and says, okay, I will protect you, you need to
It,
pay,
it is.
you
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
pay.
It is a gangsterish kind of system.
Yeah,
Yes.
but when bigger gangster comes,
Hmm.
this previous guy, he just fled. No protection.
Yeah.
It's like,
No protection.
like
Yeah.
I will protect you, you need my protection, pay me money.
Yeah.
If you won't
Right.
pay, he will hit you. And same dynamic on in macro systems. USA comes, okay, Saudi Arabia, okay, Dubai, I will protect you,
Hmm.
you pay money, use dollar.
Yeah.
And now no protection.
Right.
It's like
Right. And so it's just a um, if you look at um, uh,
how long
some of
how long
some of the what.
yeah, yeah, I just thought very curious about your how long you think it will take this Iran campaign for USA?
Oh, I think it could become a war of attrition.
So
I
like
think that
few years,
um, no, no, I don't think it. No, no, but I think it
months.
could be. It could be months, and what will happen is who's going to run out of. I mean, the United States has spent a lot of military resources in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of air defense systems, lots of air, and because the United States, beginning in like the 90s with globalization, um, and the free trade agreements and stuff, the United States, it was really good for Wall Street to move manufacturing jobs to China, then Vietnam, because Vietnam was cheaper. China started getting more expensive. Indonesia, various places. It was really good for U.S. financial interests to dismantle U.S. manufacturing, to just stop making stuff in the United States because the labor rates were too high. It cost,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
people.
too slow,
Yeah,
like return of investment when you can like
yeah,
financial sector insurance, virtual,
yes,
very fast,
right,
Wall Street,
yes,
quick,
absolutely.
quick buck.
But now the thing is, the United States finds itself in a position where it has no, um, it doesn't have the manufacturing and resource capacity
Hmm.
to to increase production of weapons, and so
And weapons
um,
like they're outdated. They're not. I think they're not for this new type of war. Like all
no,
this. No, they have like because private firms like some drones and so on, but they're too expensive. Kind of sophisticated,
yeah,
big, like all these carriers, and you need only like cheap.
yes, right, right, yeah. The United States has not given attention to like the hypersonic missile arms race. Um, I mean, we don't have a functioning hypersonic missile yet, as I understand it. My brother is in that world a little bit, and so the United States is, in order for people to make a lot of money off of money,
Yeah, yeah.
rather than
It's capitalism.
modifying the rather than modifying the physical world into something, we've stopped doing that, and we've delegated that to other places, and so that is a um, in a global strategy realm. The United States military is still able to do certain types of things well, but I don't think we can sustain them very long. We don't have the resources, and we don't have the um, well. For instance, there was um, there was friendly fire, and it looks like Kuwaiti um, air defense systems shot down three F-15 Eagle, Strike Eagles with now two-man crews, and everybody parachuted out, okay, and got on the ground and were pretty much okay. Some injuries. And in talking to my brother yesterday, we talked about, because he actually worked on the F-15
Hmm.
back in the 80s. He had some engineering stuff on it, and the and he said that he says those flight crews, the pilot and the co-pilot, apparently survived the destruction of the airplane. They ejected and everything.
Hmm.
He said, but they'll probably never fly again
Hmm.
because the stresses of being ejected cause bodily harm,
Oh, really? Huh.
like on spine, on the back, and different things, because the G forces are so great of being
Hmm.
ejected that it it makes them physically unfit to fly.
Hmm.
So now, friendly fire, miscommunication in the fog of war, in the chaos of war, where you have all kinds of things on the radar. People make mistakes. Things don't happen properly. So three of these airplanes that are very capable airplanes that are no longer being made.
Hmm, really?
They haven't made an F-15 for a couple of decades.
But they have new
And
ones like F or
well,
something.
they have F-18s and they
Yeah.
have others. Yes, right. But the F-15 was a real workhorse.
Hmm.
I mean, it carried a huge load of armaments. and tanks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Get fuel tank. Anyway, so
Mm-hmm.
the loss of three, meaningful aircraft, and the retirement of three crews is a big accident.
Yeah, and I
I
heard
mean,
from
because
American,
each,
yeah, from
yeah,
like American kind of on blogger, that now it's like fog of war, and every
yes,
party lies. Iran, because like Middle Eastern, USA, it's like created all this, like FAFO, like propaganda, like
hmm,
cognitive like warfare. And he's saying maybe
right.
it's even like Iran drone or fighter, like with rocket, so it's like a lot of, we don't have video or something. Maybe
Right,
like
right.
in 1 year or in 2 years it will be disclosed, like what
It may be
happened.
declassified.
Yeah, declassify. And now
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, a lot of very
but
active.
they're probably injured enough that they're not fit to fly again. And how many millions of dollars went into the training of those people?
Yes, that's why we need AI. Some and there's like
That's why we need.
advertisement
That's why we
for,
need robots. That's
yeah,
why we need
yeah, yeah,
autonomous weapons.
yeah. Yeah, this thing is crazy too, like
Yeah,
this with Anthropic and what Pentagon wants,
yeah.
and like I think every government, these autonomous weapon systems. Like first, it's like with drones, right? They're like trying it on some, I don't know, Palestine, Iran, and somewhere in Ukraine, but then it coming home
Yeah.
on
Well,
Europe.
we should probably look towards wrapping this up, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have
yeah,
one
yeah,
story.
yeah.
I
Okay.
have one short
Yeah,
story I'd like to tell you.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Now, I was in the U.S. Air Force from 1969 to 1973 during the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
I had a very safe job. I was in electronics. I was in communications. Um, and later on, I was in some early computing systems based on microprocessors in the late 1970s, very early microprocessor based technology for commercial applications. And I was sitting in a pub in London one night because I spent a fair amount of time in Europe for that company, and there was another Yank, another American sitting there with that we recognized each other and we started talking,
Mm-hmm.
and we were having another pint of Guinness together and chatting, and he was a technical rep, and what he was doing, we were talking. He was on his way back to the States because he worked for a company that made anti-armor, shoulder-fired anti-armor rockets,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
anti-tank weapons, anti-armor weapons that were wire guided.
Mm.
They weren't radio communicated, or they weren't self-targeting. The person who fired it had to keep the target in sight
Mm.
because
Interesting.
it would guide the missile, and so there was an unspooling wire, kind of like a little bit like the optical cable
Yeah.
drones now that can't be
Yeah.
jammed. A little
Yeah.
bit on
Yeah.
that, so sort of, it's kind of a reversion,
Yeah.
but he was trying to teach the Saudi military how to use them,
Uh-huh.
and he was saying it was really hard to teach them how to use these things. He says it's hard to teach a piece of technology to somebody who's never used a telephone,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
because at that time in the 70s, technology was not widely distributed in Saudi Arabia, and the soldiers were coming from somewhere and very low tech lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, let me ask you a question. I was always fascinated. The United States knew that the Vietnam War was lost, and yet there was this 2 or 3 years of negotiations with North Vietnam. before we actually left and the war ended. And I said, I've never understood why it took so long to acknowledge the fact that it was a waste of time to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Oh, that's easy." He said there were a lot of new weapon systems that hadn't completed their field testing,
Yeah.
and that's what's happening in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Also,
I
it
heard
is a it is a real time
testing. Yeah.
laboratory for
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah. Yeah, and this, like I heard about Iraq war or something, the point is not to win, but to prolong it, to, to this, to move money to buy for military industrial complex.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's always
one of the,
that's always a big piece of it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, okay,
yeah.
on this note,
Anyway,
I think we can wrap it
yeah.
up. Yeah, I'm stopping.